Ngero ngā mana ngā hoi whā tina koutou, tina koutou, tina koutou katoa. Kia koe Dylan o tō pōlo timatanga, tina koe. Kia puroa kesi rau o Helen, fellow panelists, tina pōlo hoki. Kia tia tiawa ngā te tō rangatira manu whenua o tine rohi, tine timihi kia koutou e tine wā. Rua koutou katoa e huhu mai nei, tina koutou, kia ora tātou. I'm Sam from the Council of Trade Unions. It's an enormous privilege and honour to be here standing alongside ESRA at the launch of what's a really important moment, I think, for our movement, really. Unions and ESRA have much in common, actually. We both stand here rejecting the exploitative nature of the economic condition, which from the work area that I work in terms of workers and unions, is doing nothing to help workers, really, the economic condition we're in right now. Workers are getting a very poor deal. They're just taking one example, the labour share of income, the amount of money in that sort of economy which goes to workers and communities and families. In the 1980s, that Sue mentioned the onslaught of the change from 84 onwards. In the 1980s, about 60% of the labour share of income was going to workers and therefore families and communities, and about 40% to capital. And over the last 25, 30, 35 years, that's shifted to about 50-50. To an extent to which our economist at the CTU, Bill Rosenberg, estimates it's about that shift in income is about $19 billion a year, which formerly would have been in the hands of workers and their families and their communities, which is now held up in the hands of capital. So that doesn't sound like a system to me which is working well for workers. And I was really taken by, in thinking about the launch this week, of one of the kaupapa principles for ESRA, which is seeding a culture of resistance, of solidarity and of hope. Seeding a culture of resistance, solidarity and hope. And I was thinking through the work that we do in unions and how, what good fellow travellers we are with ESRA on that area. Thinking about resistance that we're doing in unions from on a worksite level to acts of workplace tyranny, such as the work that bank workers are doing, fighting day in, day out against the performance improvement programs they're subjected to when they don't meet their debt targets. Banks require workers in the banking industry to push more and more debt out on communities. And if you're not meeting your targets, you're called in for a performance review. And if you don't meet your further targets, then you're ushered out of the bank. And I've spoken to workers for whom this is affected. So resistance at that workplace level, but also on a wider level, such as the work our education unions are doing to resist the commodification of education and what NZEI Te Aroa calls the GERM, the Global Education Reform Movement, which is having fundamental changes to our education system, but they're standing strong, alongside their colleagues actually in the PPTA now, in resisting the latest changes to bulk funding. When I think of solidarity, I think of the daily acts that workers do on work sites, supporting each other, standing together, joining in union, but also to that wider levels of solidarity. And I'm particularly, and I mentioned it this morning in the talk I gave at the conference, to the act that Ngāti Kahungunu, Tainui, Ngāpuhi and others took in 2012 to support AFCO Tally's meat workers, who are facing a massive struggle against their employer and couldn't resolve their dispute. And those that iwi chairs and those iwi and others stood in and said, look, AFCO Tallies, if you're going to run meatworks in our communities with our workers and members of our hapu and iwi, you're not going to treat them like this, and this needs to stop. And it very quickly got them across the line. I wish we could do more in the current dispute as well. But that act of solidarity was huge for those workers, and it was very warmly received. And when I think of hope, I think of the work that my colleague, our previous past president, Helen Kelly, did for forestry families who were facing an increasingly awful fatality rate in the forest industries. And just for them knowing that there was someone out there listening to them, that their stories weren't going unnoticed. And the work that she did to push the forest industry to lift their game and sort their shit out and improve the health and safety systems, which saw a dramatic downturn in the fatalities in that industry. One of the other reasons why I'm really warmly welcoming ESRA's arrival is that the nature to which civil society is compromised in speaking out on issues. And I've worked in the not-for-profit sector in Dunedin and elsewhere before I came into unions, so I've seen how we've been taught to be passive and to accept our grants and contracts and not to speak out. And I spent some time with Australian unions earlier this week, and we heard a fantastic presentation from Joel Falzon, who's the Chief Executive of St Vincent de Paul's in Australia. And he was reflecting on his experience of being a Marxist, running a large Catholic social justice agency. And when the noted Australian academic journal, the Daily Telegraph, the right-wing newspaper in Sydney or Melbourne, kind of called him on being a Marxist and said he was reading too much Das Kapital and not enough of the Bible, he was reflecting on his role of being political, but also running a social service and a social justice organisation. And it gave him the opportunity to quote back to the to the muckrakers in that paper, the Brazilian Catholic Archbishop and liberation theologist, or interested in that, Helder Camara, in his famous and often quoted comment that when I give food to the poor, I'm called a saint. When I ask why they're poor, I'm called a communist. And that ability to speak out on the injustice that you're seeing in civil society is significantly compromised. And so that's another reason why the analysis and the critique that I'm looking forward to ESRA doing, I think, is going to be so essential. Unions have our challenges. Well, I spoke this morning at the conference, we're looking at new and different ways of building and exercising power, from strategic litigation, the work that is happening in equal pay, the broad-based organising that the living wage movement has seeded, realising that the economic employer they were sitting in front of at the bargaining table couldn't agree on a decent wage or condition for their families, and they're going up the pecking order to city councils and others, the real rule setters. The new models of organising that my former union, I'm still a member of it, but the union I used to work with, First Union, are trialling for migrant workers, forestry workers, third-party logistics workers, building different models of organisation outside of our traditional structures, and a recognition that when workers are being turned into independent contractors and their work is becoming precarious and contracted out and agency labour hire, either we can abandon those workers or we can find new models to support them. And so a lot of this is going to involve significant levels of power analysis, understanding where the economic employer is, where the rule setter is, asking those basic questions like, what do we want? Who's got the ability to say yes? What's the price for them saying yes and the cost of them saying no? And some of that structural analysis, that economic analysis, that good organising up and along the supply chain, I'm really excited and can see ESRA playing a significant role in supporting our movement to develop our analysis in those areas and supporting us. I know that ESRA's got a project looking at the condition for migrant workers and the dairy farm, on-farm dairy workers in the North Island. And so that role to support us and partner up and do some of that work, to do that deep economic analysis on the nature of work and what we're doing to organise, I think is going to be very exciting. We're very active in the Future of Work process that the Labour Party set up their commission. We're also doing a lot of work around just transition, having an ethical and adequate response to climate change for workers. But as I've said lots to unions, it's no good us just engaging at a policy level on the future of work. We need a smart and focused organising response to that. And a big part of that is decent economic analysis and power analysis of the nature of the industries we're organising in. And so, I'm just really excited by ESRA's launch. So I wish you well. We're very pleased to be here on the journey with you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And mihi koto, and very warm greetings to the ESRA whānau.